Om. Gayatri Mahamantra with your back straight. Om Bhura Bhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Invocation of the Divine Master Adi Guru Muni Vyas. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Deva Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Akhand Mandalakaram, Vyaptam Yena Characharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Om Shri Gurave Namaha, व्यासरूपेण आवाहयामि स्थापयामि ध्यायामि पूजयामि ततो नमस्कारं करोमि. Shrimed Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 9, verse number 19. Before coming upon the verse of this day, it is a mandation upon me to reiterate one aspect once again. We are upon development of an understanding about the all-pervasiveness of that unmanifest Almighty. And undergoing this process of understanding, we come across in Bhagavad Gita the mentions that ascribe to a name Krishna, Keshav, the Lord. And at times people misconstrue and misunderstand such mentioning about all pervasiveness when it comes to denote it as everything. And with the subjective reference, I am the river, I am the mountain, I am the sky, I am this, I am Gayatri, I am all. So this I at times is misconstrued as something which is an expression of an ego, inflated ego that wants to subscribe to everything as I. Let it be clearly understood over here. The I, which is mentioned here as Krishna, as Keshav, is not something that counts upon any individual, any human being within ambits of confinements of age, name, etc. The I over here, which ascribes to Krishna, is about the unmanifest, that magnanimity that withholds anything and everything, which is the cause of this entire creation, and which is also the abode for this entire creation to undergo dissolution within it. So it is everything. The right term would be it. The it has been over here personified into the form of a form as a human for us to comprehend and connect through our sensorial drivers as Krishna. But Krishna, in true sense, is the unmanifest Almighty. So let us not fall, let us not become a prey to the confinements of the term Krishna as an individual. No, it is not about an individual. It is about the all-pervasive. The expression comes to us in the form of Bhagavad Gita as it manifested in the intuitive form within Adi Guru Muni Vyas. It was he who scripted under the facilitation by Ganpati, Lord Ganpati. But the reference of Krishna goes to the unmanifest Almighty, all-pervasive, omnipresent. When it comes to explain to a common mind about it, its all-pervasiveness, therefore, I believe a need must have arose within Adi Guru Muni Vedvyas to make a mention through Krishna that I am everything and I am all that which you hold as the epitome in any sphere of your life, something which holds the highest sanctity, highest order of sanctity, be it rivers, mountains, mantra, whatever. And when it denotes not an individual but the unmanifest, then the misunderstanding immediately withers away. It disappears. The purpose of making this reiteration once again over here was in order to resolve various kinds of curiosities that keep coming up in the minds of the seeker, the students, and they come to me in the form of their emails. Having said that, we'll come down to the verse of this day and then try to interpret a little more at the end of it. Let's watch the verse in the form of its slide right in front of you now. As it says, Tapami aham varsham nigrahanami utsrijami cha amritam cha eva mrityuhu cha sat asat cha aham arjuna. I heat, I withhold the rain and shower it. I am immortality and death. I am the existent and the non-existent. What is the purpose of making this mention over here? The purpose of making a mention over here is in order to enable the seeker understand that it is the cause and it is the effect. So the cause and effect are not beyond its ambit. They are contained within its own entity. When we mention about the rain, we mention about a cycle. The rain comes to us in the form of a cycle. How does the rain find its form? Obviously, when there is heat, the water gets evaporated. With the evaporation, the water rises up in the sky. Then the water is held within the bosom of the sky almost about 7-8 months. Then that evaporation held in the form of clouds is released as rain. So it is a cycle. But the cycle begins with what? Begins with the heat. From heat to evaporation, from evaporation to then further consolidation of vapors in the clouds, they keep suspending there for long till a moment arises when now they have to burst and shower us with in the form of rains. So the cycle is upon whom? The facilitation is upon whom? Me, Arjuna, I, Arjuna, and now you very well understand who is me and I over here. It is the unmanifest. It is the unmanifest, which is me and I over here, which leads to the existence of the cycle of the nature. Having said that, then the second line it says, I am immortality and I am the death. Why should it be mentioned immortality and death, both contrarian to each other, but mentioned besides? Yes, both are connected. Immortality means something which is going to stay forever. Death means a confinement. So within immortality is the death. The nearest example to understand it, it will take a while for you to connect the dots. The nearest example for you to understand about immortality and death both at the same time, and the mentioning of I am the heat, and then I hold the rains, and then I shower them. The purpose of making this mention is to understand through the sky. The sky, the space. The space holds everything. Whatever you burn turns into the form of a smoke, gets submerged into this space. Our planet is in the space. Our solar system is within space. Entire galactical formations that we have so far been able to access are in the space. Everything is contained and within the envelope of space. Space is the larger unmanifest reality in the physical form, which contains and envelopes everything, can encompass anything and everything. Now, something is there that even holds the space. Even the space is held somewhere. And something is there as a larger entity that also holds the time, the past, the present, the future. Something that owes the right to lead the creation, the unfolding of the creation, and also to contain when the creation undergoes dissolution, evolution and involution, both. The larger entity is termed as unmanifest. I am it, Arjuna. I am the cause and I am the effect. I am the Sat and Asat. Sat and Asat do not follow the ordinary literal meaning of Sat and Asat as something which stands for truth, untruth. No. Here, Sat gives a very different understanding. According to the great exalted ones, as they've interpreted, Sat represents here as the form of the creation that exists, something which you can observe with your own sensorial organs. That is Sat, the manifested form. And what is Asat? Asat is the unmanifest form, which appears to be non-existent at the moment, but it owes its origin to the unmanifest. Any existence owes its origin to the unmanifest. And to replace this with the simple another word would be like saying the cause and the effect. The unmanifest is the cause, the effect is, of course, the manifested form. The understanding may undergo a confusion because generally Sat means truth, Asat means something which is untrue. Here, probably it appears as if the connotation has been swapped. No, it has not been swapped in the sense you are taking it, but here the manifested form which you can easily connect with has been given a term as Sat, and something which is beyond that, wherefrom it owes its origin, has been termed as Asat. Black and white both are colors. Both are comprised within colorlessness. Something which is colorless shall contain all colors, is potent enough to contain all colors, the colorlessness. Whereas the black and white, in comparison, they stand as two different colors. Here, immortality and death, both as black and white, are contained within something which is colorless. Here, Sat and Asat, the manifested and unmanifest, both are contained within it that has been termed here as I or me, myself. That is Keshava. At times, what happens when we start reading such scriptures in the form of Upanishads, especially Upanishads, and of course Bhagavad Gita, which is an extraction of Upanishads, with the signatures of Adi Guru Muni Ved Vyas, there are moments when we are not able to conclude and arrive at the right understanding. And everything appears to be confusing without any substance holding any rationale. And we get confused and make a declaration. I tried all, but was not able to understand Bhagavad Gita, was not able to connect to Bhagavad Gita, because my understanding could not connect the dots. It is obvious. We're talking about the dimension of consciousness which is beyond the ambit of the mind and intellect. The mind and intellect have been programmed within confinements of the experiences of this life or maybe past lives. The mind and intellect are fueled and propelled by an emanation of consciousness. We have never come across consciousness in its true form. So how can we gauge and how can we comprehend the ambits of consciousness? Obviously not. We are merely making all of our transactions in life under the beam of the emanation of the consciousness, which is very confined in the form of mind and intellect. We have to rise beyond mind and intellect. And it does not come merely at the under the level of our understanding. A sadhana is mandatory for that. Sadhana facilitates a seeker to dive into the experiential dimension and then divulge certain facts which were never experienced. For example, pervasiveness. We would not have experienced pervasiveness to that extent in our lives unless we are a seeker, and in the deeper stage of meditations, one moment may come that we experience what is pervasiveness. In general, in physical form, within confinements, we experience pervasiveness when we are driving a car, when we're driving a vehicle. On the driving seat, in the form of a driver, partially we become pervasive into the vehicle, into its engine, into all of its four wheels, entire circumference of the vehicle. We are prevailing into the vehicle. We know any sound, any different sound which is different is immediately gathered by us, and we start calculating whether it was coming from the tire left or right or from the engine. Our all pervasiveness within its limited vicinity is able to conclude to something going wrong somewhere in the car, and we try to locate it by our pervasiveness. And that is something which is very limited. In sadhana, a moment comes that a seeker, he gets submerged within the heart and then immediately experiences that he has or she has become pervasive into the surrounds. He or she is one with the objects around. He or she is one with anything and everything around, maybe humans, animals, nature, anything and everything. This experience is very short-lived, transient at a high pace. But this experience makes you gather an understanding that comprehension cannot be belittled merely depending upon the sensorial drivers. There are higher forms of perceptions, higher mode of perception. There is a higher beam of understanding which enables you to comprehend larger facts which are beyond the confinements of sensorial organs. And it cannot happen to you unless you are a seeker. Within these confined instruments of understanding, you can never experience that. That is why what happens when at times we try to read the scriptures confined to the words and its translation, we often get confused, not able to conclude to the rightful understanding, and instead misconstrue, and the story ends. In the form of a seeker, you not only read the scripture, but somewhere are able to connect with the deeper connotation, deeper understanding of the scripture, where the words are incapacitated, but your experience to comprehend it at a different dimension is possible. Therefore, austerity and practice of spiritual techniques is mandatory for a seeker to connect with the essence of the scripture. Unless that happens, however proficient you may be in the language, in the English or Sanskrit, you shall not be able to connect because that is not your experience. You haven't experienced anything of that kind, even in the infinitesimal portion. So austerity facilitates you to get rid of all kinds of instabilities within, all wobbling it ends. And at the same time, the spiritual practices make you connect with experiences which are beyond the ambit of sensorial organs. And you give an affirmation, deep affirmation within yourself by saying, acknowledging No. By acknowledging how? No. There is a different dimension of experience where things transpire. Anything and everything is not confined to what I am able to hear from outside, see outside, touch, smell, taste outside. No, there are dimensions which are beyond them, where these experiences or better experiences or different experiences do transpire. That only a seeker will be able to connect with. So, if you really want to take the deliverables to the optimum extent out of the scriptures, you should also be practicing some austerity and also be observing some spiritual sadhana. Then you will be able to understand what means here as all pervasiveness. What is the sense of Sat Asat? Why is it being mentioned again and again with a reiteration in different forms that I am this, I am that, I am that? It's not I, the individual, it's the largest I-ness. That I-ness where consciousness, pure consciousness prevails and pervades, where there are no limitations, no boundaries drawn, where it is timelessness. You and me, in our limited confinement and reach, will experience all this for a very short interlude, a very short interlude, maybe for few seconds, not more than that. But for the exalted ones, they are already submerged into it. They breathe in and breathe out in such a dimension. And those who breathe in and breathe out in such a dimension, for them to experience all pervasiveness and to say, I am this, I am that too, is not a mention of fallacy, but absolute truth. Having said that, I conclude for the session of this day. ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है.